Ole, thank you for joining us. It's only been a short-term trend. I'm not sure I have ever seen this kind of run in this short of a period for a commodity like nat gas. How about you, and where do you see it heading?
Good morning, Brian. No, absolutely right. This is, as you said, it's a parabolic rise. We've seen it within a very short period of time, but it's also just a combination of, as you mentioned, of several things that just gone wrong this year in the European power market, and it is really critical when you see such an essential commodity rise to this extent, because it's obviously impacting everyone from industry to consumer. And I think it's only really now during the past couple of weeks it started to dawn on people what is going on, because it is a kind of, well, in the US we have got the Henry Hub natural gas futures contract. We can all relate to it. We understand it. The European gas market is a bit more archaic and a little bit more difficult for a layman to understand. So, but these developments are most certainly attracting attention. And the question is obviously what the future hold. And we have become to a certain extent victims of our green transformation focus, because what is happening when we have to reduce the amount of coal? We obviously move to look towards gas, stable gas supplies. We also look towards wind and sun. And when the wind, as you mentioned, has fallen off in terms of the supply, we just saw Ørsted, a Danish company, one of the biggest offshore power generators. They've had a horrible quarter because simply the wind hasn't blown. That is critical now, because utilities have to buy up coal. When they buy up coal, they have to buy more emissions contracts, and that's all driving up the price, not only for gas but also for power. So it's going to be an interesting winter.
Yeah.
It all depends really on the weather. If we're going to see another cold winter like we had last year, we may have a problem.
Yeah, and let's hope for a warmer than expected winter, because to your point, Ole, a lot of consumers, by the way, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I know all countries do it differently. Here in the US, we have more sort of dynamic pricing. A lot of consumers in Europe are on a fixed contract for their power costs, and I think every 6 months it resets. Spain, not that way. In fact, a lot of Spaniards are very angry. Their bills have soared. They're doing things like laundry at midnight to keep the power bills down. If this continues, and when those prices reset, this could be a big deal for consumers as well, either not having enough heat or paying out the nose for the heat they're able to produce.
You're absolutely right. The impact right now is probably not being felt as hard as it will over the coming months if these high levels continues, because some of these contracts will roll off, extended into these new and much higher price regimes. So it will impact. We're already also seeing industry now starting to have a impact that kind of input costs, and it is also it's adding to the worry that this growth we've seen in Europe, the post-pandemic growth sprint, that potentially could become a little bit unstuck here, and the climate change and the global trend, the green transformation, is a key source, because right now the competition for gas, which in the US gas price has been stuck in a $2-3 range for forever, which is amazing for such an important commodity. Now the competition is heating up. China wants to reduce its emissions. They are turning to more gas instead of coal. So the global competition is really fierce, and that basically means if you got an LNG ship, you will be busy over the coming years.
Yeah, names here like Cheniere and some of the other ones out there. Cheniere in particular may have a huge benefit, and we've seen these prices spike. And we love the move to renewables, Ole, because it's the wave of the future. But it also shows that you've got to make the timing right, correct? Because the fact that coal is shut off, but now they're kind of desperate for coal. The wind didn't blow. Hydropower in Norway hasn't also done what it's supposed to do. Leaders there, and there's a climate summit coming up in Scotland. It's a 12-day summit. It's a huge one at the end of September, early October. We're going to have to learn to manage this transition in a way that doesn't harm consumers.
Indeed, and we are at the point now that if this continues, someone said the other day, are getting to the point where politicians are getting more worried about blackouts than climate change, and that obviously will be a focus point over the coming weeks. But I think you're absolutely right. The transition needs to be gradual. But at the same time, we also need to look at some other alternative sources. Nuclear power is still something that's very strong in France. It's in the US. It's growing in Asia. But we've seen some of these power plants being decommissioned over the past decade, and I think that's really in order
Yeah.
to achieve that base load that is required on the days where the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow. That is really one of the sources that I think there will be renewed focus on, especially in Europe.